That's a great start. Good evening and welcome to our home here at U+I. I'm Brenda Bates. I'm Director of Corporate Communications and Brand here, and we're just really pleased to have you here. A few years ago, the playwright Alan Bennett was collecting a prestigious literary prize, and he said he compared all these prizes to different types of cloth. The one he'd collected the previous week was sponsored by a well-known supermarket, and it made him think, he said, slightly haughtily, of polyester. But the one he was collecting on that day was different. To him, it was, he said, with a very wide smile, corduroy. Now, I'd like to think that if U+I was a cloth, it would be denim. Why is that? Hard-wearing, always in fashion, and if we were denim, ideally I'd like to think that we were Hieatt Denim. Despite being two companies in very different sectors, U+I and Hieatt share a remarkable number of common values. And both of us hold our brand and our values very dear. U+I's values, intelligence, imagination and audacity, are the ones I feel sure David would be very comfortable with these. But we need to go further than a set of values. We need an understanding of the importance of a purpose. The purpose to change things for the better. Not just ourselves, our industries, and now, more importantly than ever, society itself. We need to be makers of history, not just makers of things. And in this, we need to celebrate the importance of stories and of history, because history gives context to everything, from clothes to communities and to places. U+I and Hieatt share a view on the importance of place. The town where Hieatt makes its jeans is the reason for and the story of the whole business. Neither company wants to be average. Both of us want to be great businesses, powered by great ideas, driven by great people, and with a great culture at our core. David, it is really an honour and a delight to have you here. We are so lucky, and we are looking forward to hearing your story.
Thank you very much. Super humbled to be here. Just come up from West Wales. So this isn't a story about me. It is a story about a town. But before I tell you a story about the town I live in now, I want to tell you a story about the town I used to live in. And I lived in a coal mining district of South Wales. And every morning when I went to school, on my left, the coal miners were there. And then coming back from school at 3:30, they were there, but black faces with their cans. And then one morning they weren't there. Like literally, one morning they weren't there. Economics does that. I'm not saying that was a bad thing. I was just going, one morning they were there, and the next they weren't. And I was there going, wow. And it literally ripped the community apart. Happens. So I lived in a different part of Wales, and actually the same happened there. And my town used to make jeans. And it made 35,000 pairs a week for 40 years. And then in 2002, that factory closed and 400 world-class makers had nothing to make. Economics happens. It fought the wrong battle, actually. It fought the battle of who could be the cheapest, and it wasn't us.
I think we've even seen the tip of the iceberg. I think the potential of what the internet is going to do to society, both good and bad, is unimaginable. I think we're actually on the cusp of something exhilarating and terrifying.
It's just a tool, though, isn't it?
No, it's not. No. No, it's an alien life form.
What do you think, I mean, when you think then about the
Is there life on Mars? Yes, it's just landed here.
Good old Bowie, always timely. And actually, that's what I had to do. I had to wait 10 years for the internet to happen. The internet actually physically changed the economics of my town. We fought the battle of who could be the cheapest, and it wasn't us, but we could fight the battle of who could be the best. Because in this small company, crazy company, beautiful company, there's 200 years worth of knowledge of making jeans. So we could fight the battle of who could be the elite makers in the world. But the internet allows us to speak directly to our customer. And therefore, the dream, the crazy dream, I've gone the wrong way.
I don't think we need
Bam. The crazy dream of getting 400 people their jobs back isn't actually that crazy at all. And so if we're going to talk about purpose, I had a phone call with a guy called Gideon Day, and I'd written a plan for the Hiut Denim company. And actually, after I'd kind of sold Howie's, I was feeling a bit broken, to be honest. I'd sold it to Timberland, and actually I was still in love with it. And I said to Gideon I didn't want to run around the same track twice. And he said, actually, it's not about you, Dave. It's actually about your town. So get your ego out of the way and actually get back to work. And he said, go and get 400 people their jobs back. And I'm going, that's why I want to run around that track twice. And so purpose makes you strong, makes you interesting, makes you creative, makes you tough. And actually, do you know what? It isn't easy. I have no idea what I'm doing in terms of a factory. I've never done it before, ever. And actually, I had to Google most of the answers. But it is that clear. I want to go and get 400 people their jobs back. Do you know what's really interesting? In the first couple of years, everybody was going, Dave, you're full of shit. And now they're going, maybe you will get 400 people their jobs back. Come June, we'll have got 25 jobs back. I'm super proud of that. I'm super proud of it. And I love them. And do you know what the interesting thing is? When you have something happen to you, like the gates close in at the factory and they shut and they were never going to open again. Not one of those 400 people ever thought that those gates would open again. So I don't have to do the motivational thing, is because actually when you hear those gates close once, you don't want to hear the gates close again. And the thing for me is, I've got unfinished business. I wanted to go and build the best brand in the world. And I was doing it with Howie's, and I sold it, and I was a fool. And I'm going, so there's unfinished business for everybody there. So there's no motivational talks. We all absolutely know why we're doing it. But the world doesn't need another jeans company. It's like got enough. And our competition have everything more than us. They have more patents. They invented the thing. They have more people, more lawyers, more rivets. They have more followers on everything. And every logical part of you says you shouldn't go head to head with them because this might be a battle that you can't win. Except for one thing, and that is, there's never been a better time to be David, especially if your name is David. And actually, there's never been a worse time to be Goliath. We are living in an incredible moment, good and bad, in this world right now where actually the small maker, the small creative person, the small company with an idea is they can go and tell the world about it. And guess what? The world, if it's good enough, are receptive to it. And it's an extraordinary, extraordinary moment in time. And I just happen to be in the right town with the right lovely people, with the right skills. And some of these people have built incredible roads in the sky. And I know social media is having a bit of a rap at the moment. But for small makers, our stories travel further, faster, and freer than ever before. It's never been a better time to be a person with a great product and a great story, because actually somebody has built those roads in the sky, and it's extraordinary. These guys who made this film, they emailed me and said, you know, we really want to make a film for you. And I'm going, great, I haven't got a budget. I said, show me some of your films. And they said, we've only done any wedding videos. And I'm going, are they any good? And they go, no, they're crap. I'm going, well, at least you're honest. But they made it, and I paid them 500 quid, and actually it was beautiful. And it's been watched a ton of times. So this is what my theory on stuff is. Actually, there's a sweet spot for a tennis racket, right? But I also believe there's a sweet spot for life. And actually, the sweet spot is in the intersection of those things. And if you can operate there as a human being, if you can operate there as a business, is the place where you're most alive. You're most creative, you're having the most fun, and actually in terms of fulfillment, you're most likely to get fulfillment there. And yes, you're going to have great business, great success, but that's the sweet spot. And for me, I always try and draw 3 circles before I do anything. It's kind of fun anyway. So once you know why, you'll kind of find out how. And that's actually the purpose of purpose, is to keep you to understand why you're doing it. That's the ultimate thing, right? And I see a lot of people, and they've made a lot of money, and they're miserable. And we've all met them. And it's because they didn't get fulfillment along the way. And actually, the one thing purpose will give you is you can make a ton of change and a ton of money, but actually, you're doing something that matters to you. And as a human being, you'll get fulfillment. And that is a good life. So I want to share some lessons from some person who literally has no clue what they're doing, mostly. And so I knew I had to start a jeans factory because we were going to make jeans. But it took me about a year to find out and figure out this thing. Is actually, I had to go and start this other factory, and I didn't know. And this is a very, very busy world. Anyone here not get enough email? No hands? And so that's what happens, is people going, oh yeah, Hieatt make jeans, and then they forget about us. And like the sewing machine, we have to master the sewing machine in order to be an elite maker in this world. But we have to master the story machine as well. And that is the thing I didn't realize when I started out. And I'm going, we have to be every good as making the jean as we are at telling the story, and vice versa. This is a storytelling world. And this is an important point, is you have to tell your story, and you have to be good at telling your story. But the important thing is other people want to tell it on your behalf. That is the gold. That's what a purpose-driven company has, is because they completely understand why you're doing it. And when they understand why you're doing it, they tell their friends. Other people want to tell your story. I did this next slide 4 weeks ago. So these are the people in the last 12 weeks who've come either to the factory or written a story about us. And actually, the list is much longer now because it was 4 weeks ago. Purpose-driven companies get you in your heart. And therefore, you tell their story because you're emotionally charged with it. That's incredibly powerful. And in this world where there's a lot of veneer, you suddenly find out those companies that actually do give a shit, that actually have a truth and have a reason, and you gravitate towards them. Can't tell if that's the aircon.
For me, I'm only interested in one thing. I'm only interested in the thing that is binding us all together. No matter what you do in this room, no matter what your profession is, an entrepreneur, work for an agency, designer, developer, no matter what you do, always and forever, our job is to tell our story. And that is never going to change. The way you make real money, the way you make real impact, the way things get changed is by great storytelling. It's always been that way, and it always will be that way, because I don't know if you guys heard, but we're fucking human beings, and that's what we like, right? And this is important. It's
Scary V using language. But this is the extraordinary journey that some brands take you on, and actually they are the super brands. And it is this journey, is the 18 inches between your head and your heart. Because actually, yes, you know, they help you to buy something, but they make you feel something for the journey that they're on, and you want to help it and be part of it. You know, back in the day, Apple fought on behalf of simplicity, and we all wanted them to win because computers were very, very complex. Patagonia fights every day on behalf of the environment, and we really want them to win. Actually, Unilever right now are trying to use their business to make change in this world, and we're going to actually want them to win too.
I'm very grateful that I grew up fat and black and weird, and having so many people look at me, even when I thought what I was doing was normal, having people look at me and say like, that's weird, because then you just get desensitized and you recognize that they're saying that that's weird because they're not comfortable enough with themselves.
If I told you this was coming, you would have been like, what the fuck? And if you got a big old belly going on, I got one too, you can walk your feet even wider.
People get offended by all kinds of stuff that I do.
Stepping back into a high plank might be some bullshit.
Yeah, definitely offended by swearing.
I press into that left big toe like a motherfucker. Oh fuck, I gotta give all my energy into something. Beautiful, fuck yeah, strengthening through.
I'm just trying to create an environment where people feel comfortable enough to be themselves. And that's all I'm trying to do as a teacher. And I think that's what I can give as a teacher.
Very, very nice, you guys, this is beautiful. You at home too, you looking good too.
There have been enough people that have said like, finally somebody who just lets it out. I cannot tell you how many people are like, I'm afraid to fart in class, or like, is it gonna be okay if I fart? And I'm like, who doesn't want to fart when their legs are spread apart? I don't understand that.
Drop down to your knees if you need to. Fart just like I did, if you need to.
If I do something off the mat, it would be inauthentic for me to stop doing it when I get on the mat. Yoga is always supposed to be about just having your practice, whatever that is for you today. And it may not look the same as everybody else, but giving someone the chance to just be in their own space, that's the key to helping someone be themselves. There are many people who my teaching style does not resonate for them. And I think that's to be expected. There need to be different kinds of teachers because there's not just one kind of person.
And so if you're feeling that frustration, let it out.
I think that it is a part of my truth to accept that I'm not for everybody, and that's okay. If you can just get to a place where you're cool with you, even if it's weird, you'll always be happy. Excuse me. See? I'm sure that would offend somebody. I'm telling you.
No, I wanted to share that because I just thought she was being herself. And actually, like, you know, we talk about brands and all this stuff. Actually, like, brands, like, kind of, they need to be more human. And, you know, and they've got to stop talking and they've got to start listening. And, you know, we've all done this, right? Anyone here had this happen to them? You invite that person to the dinner party and literally for 2 hours they completely hog the conversation and it's literally all about them. And when you call that taxi, it's the best feeling in the world, right? You go, oh. And actually when you have another dinner party, you go, shall we invite that person back? No. And actually that's what brands are doing. And I think they're on transmit and they're not on receive. And I think the best brands in the world have ears and not just a mouth. And I think that's a really interesting thing that's going to happen over the next 10 years is the human brands are coming. The robots aren't coming. The humans are going to come back. And so, I mean, I spent all the marketing budget on the coffee machine. And people think it's funny when I say it, and I'm going, except it's the truth. And I spent it on the wood as well. And then, you know, there was a point, you know, in that, when we sort of came up with the content factory is because I had to. Because suddenly everybody, all my, you know, customers had their jeans and we made them so well they weren't going to come back for years. And so I had to start doing it. And I was really clear, is we make jeans for some of the most creative people on the planet. And there's enough of those to get 400 people their jobs back. And that's literally the people I completely love. They literally have great ideas and they go and do amazing stuff. And I'm going, what better than that? We make jeans for those people. You go, and I live in West Wales, and I'm going, I can't think of anything better. And I'm going to get my town, not just to be a tourist town, I'm going to get all those people their jobs back. And I'm going, that's just literally ridiculously good. Fun. And I'm going, and I feel alive. And then, but suddenly all my customers had jeans, and I spent all the money on marketing on the coffee machine. So what did I do? I started, because I couldn't spend, I actually did something quite radical, and I was actually starting thinking. I'm going, well, if I want to make jeans for the most creative people on the planet, I want to go and celebrate them. And we did this list. And do you know what? Something truly remarkable happened. I spent 3 months building this list. I launched it. And this is in 2013, 36 people in the world, entire world, viewed it. And I was 4 of them. Honestly. But that's the interesting thing with purpose is when you suddenly don't have the data, data said I should give up. But my heart said, celebrate those people. Those are the people you love the most. Those are the people you truly want to make jeans for. Keep doing it. And actually we did one last year, and they had 25,000 views. And and 10,000 reads or whatever. And actually, if that goes on at the same growth, actually 100,000 people next year. And you suddenly go, wow. But purpose meant that when it was 36 views, I kept going. The data told me to stop, but my heart told me to keep going. And that's an important thing for me. I'm suddenly go, because if it was just a data-driven business, I would have completely killed it at that point. And the thing for me is, you should always try and run companies where you suddenly go, oh, it doesn't make any sense for us to do free repairs for life for jeans. Apart from, I'd love to be involved in that company. The biggest thing you can do for the environment is to make something last a long time. In a jeans pair of life, they just get to a really interesting point and something happens. The pocket goes through or the knee goes through. And you go, wouldn't it be brilliant if a company just at that point said, we'll repair them for you? And Paul repairs them, apart from when the surf is good. He doesn't repair anything at that point, only himself. So this other lesson was, the interesting thing about people is they always look at other people and say, oh, they got bigger budget than me, or they have more people than me. And I think we've got to get into that point and the mindset of actually going, reframe the question, Dave. So we have competition and they're bigger than us. But what happens actually if you live in a world where actually the values have changed? And actually now it's all about you live in a very fast world. Actually being big means you're slow. And so we're a very, 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 very small speedboat. But we're actually very, very fast. Like an ocean liner takes 21 miles to turn and 16 miles to stop. We live in a world where actually speed is more important than size right now. How big the competition is doesn't matter. How fast they are does. So these are my rules of a speedboat. Speed is more important than size. Direction can change quickly, but your values should not. No passengers, less people, the quick decisions. You are here to make waves, not ride them. No egos, they slow you down. Listen to your gut. If something is telling you something, the gut's like another brain. Up ahead is the future. You have to get there before anyone else does. Pretty important. There is no map. Pioneers have to imagine the way, not read it. Always be launching. This is the speedboat. And you've got to, for me, I have to create a culture where we're required to fail. And I'm trying to create a safe space for creative people to experiment. Because I've learned this, is I don't actually know which one of the ideas we're going to have is going to get 400 people their jobs back. So I have to quiet my knowingness. and just put ideas out there, because none of them are actually going to break us, but one actually might make us. And actually, this is the rule of startup, right? It's like mostly, know what you're doing, 1%. Don't know what they're doing, 99%. I literally had no clue about running a factory. And, the Grandmasters came to me and said, we want to work 4 days a week. We want to come in early, and we want to, in those days, we want to do 39 hours in 4 days. And I'm going, look, I have no clue how to run a factory. If you think that's the best thing, they're going, yeah, but Dave, you're the boss. But I'm going, look, if I was an airline pilot and I told you I'd never flown a plane before, would you ask me, would you get on the plane? And they said, no. I'm going, well, you have spent 20, 30 years in a factory. You have to self-govern. I'm going to run this other factory. I actually know a bit about that. But this factory, I have no clue. And they're going, okay. And they just only go, so you have to organize yourself. And we don't, they go and decide everything in that factory. I just put this in because it's funny. See? That's all you can remember. What was the talk like? No, it's kind of a funny joke. But this is kind of interesting as well. It's like, and look, for me in a small company, right, I build that safe place for people to go and experiment and mess up, and that's okay, and it's good. And it's much easier for me in a small company than in a big company. Actually, there's a formula, and it's like R equals the internal resistance to new ideas, N number of employees divided by, or to the power of number of management levels. It's actually much harder to change in a big company than a small company. I'm not saying that change can't happen, but it's just a little bit harder. And this formula proves it. And so for us, we had an idea about a hack-proof pocket. So actually, nobody could hack your phone if you put your phone in there, because we'd put it with a special material. And it's such a brilliant idea. So you have a hack-proof pocket. Apart from, we couldn't sew it because this thing was too thick. And so when you sat down, you're going, oh, it's a bit odd, Dave. So it was a brilliant idea. It just didn't work. And this thing did actually work. This was like an interactive window. And Nick phoned me up and said, I've got this idea for an interactive window. I'm going, I don't know, have no clue what it is, but we should do it. And actually, when you touched it, it starts speaking to you and telling you all about the genes. I'm going, great idea. Actually, that did work. This thing is a brilliant idea. The Grandmasters in the factory absolutely hated it. It basically allowed our Twitter followers to decide the music in the factory. So, end of day one, they bring it in and said, Dave, you can have it. If you like this thing so much, you have it. I'm not listening to Radiohead again. I love Radiohead, by the way. Hi, Colin. And literally, so our Grandmasters love happy music when they're sewing. ABBA, all day long. Radiohead, not so much. So that is still sitting in our office, and they just say, you're not bringing that back. So this is an interesting idea, which hasn't failed and hasn't succeeded. But I like it. And basically, I saw a 140-year-old pair of jeans in a Levi's store, and I thought, wow, they're incredible. I wonder, did they strike gold? I wonder if they sang while they were working. I wonder what the hardest day was. I wonder if they fell in love. And they couldn't tell me any of those stories because actually, their stories died with the people who were wearing them. But the internet is very good at keeping and telling stories. So I thought, well, why don't we put a number plate on each pair of jeans so actually those stories could be bookmarked via Instagram or whatever medium you choose. So actually when they go and end up in a second-hand store one day, their stories would go with them too. And I thought that was really fascinating. I still kind of think it's fascinating. But I'm just going, but it's too early. Actually, they're still making the history. This thing was a ridiculous idea. which worked amazingly well. And so if you ever got no budget, form a club. Because like, it's really easy to have, you just really have a club. How much is that going to cost? Like nothing. We got a badge. And there's good reasons for this, by the way, is actually, if you can go without washing your jeans for like 6 months, 3 months, whatever, that imprint that you make yourself, and when you kind of go to wash it, that imprint is yours, and it's beautiful, and the most beautiful pair of jeans. So there's like a really great reason for it. Actually, the greenest, and the other reason is the greenest jean of all is the one you don't wash. 80% of the impact of a pair of jeans in terms of environment is by you and I washing it. And if you do such a thing, ironing it. But the interesting thing with clubs is actually we always want to go to a more exclusive club, don't we? Marathon, it's too easy, isn't it? Let's go to another club, shall we? More pain. The Iron Man. And so 6 months, I literally swear this happened, right? I was sitting down with a Guardian journalist, God bless him, and he said, he pointed at his jeans and he said, 3 years. I'm like, man, you Guardian readers, honestly.
Don't call it a comeback. I'll have hair for years. I'm scared. I'm scared that my abilities are gone. I'm scared that I'm going to fuck this up. And I'm scared of you. I don't want to start, but I will. This is an invocation for anyone who hasn't begun, who's stuck in a terrible place between 0 and 1. Let me realize that my past failures at follow-through are no indication of my future performance. They're just healthy little fires that are going to warm up my ass. If my FILDI is strong, let me keep him in a velvet box until I really, really need him. If my FILDI is weak, let me feed him oranges and not let him gorge himself on ego and arrogance. Let me not hit up my Facebook like it's a crack pipe. Keep the browser closed. If I catch myself wearing a tutu, too fat, too late, too old, let me shake it off like a donkey would shake off something it doesn't like. And when I get that feeling in my stomach, you know, the feeling when all of a sudden you get a ball of energy and it shoots down into your legs and up into your arms and tells you to get up and stand up and go to the refrigerator and get a cheese sandwich, that's my cheese monster talking. And my cheese monster will never be satisfied by cheddar, only the cheese of accomplishment. Let me think about the people who I care about the most and how when they fail or disappoint me, I still love them, I still give them chances, and I still see the best in them. Let me extend that generosity to myself. Let me find and use metaphors to help me understand the world around me and give me the strength to get rid of them when it's apparent they no longer work. Let me thank the parts of me that I don't understand or are outside of my rational control, like my creativity and my courage. And let me remember that my courage is a wild dog. It won't just come when I call it. I have to chase it down and hold on as tight as I can. Let me not be so vain to think that I'm the sole author of my victories and a victim of my defeats. Let me remember that the unintended meaning that people project onto what I do is neither my fault or something that I can take credit for. Perfectionism may look good in his shiny shoes, but he's a little bit of an asshole and no one invites him to their pool parties. Let me remember that the impact of criticism is often not the intent of the critic, but when the intent is evil, that's what the block button's for. And when I eat my critique, let me be able to separate out the good advice from the bitter herbs. The big impact on me is more than a small impact. Let me not think of my work only as a stepping stone to something else. And if it is, let me become fascinated with the shape of the stone. Let me take the idea that has gotten me this far and put it to bed. What I'm about to do will not be that, but it will be something. There's no need to sharpen my pencils anymore. My pencils are sharp enough. Even the dull ones will make a mark. Warts and all. Let's start this shit up. And God, let me enjoy this. Life isn't just a sequence of waiting for things to be done.
See Frank. I mean, I love him actually. But I love what we're trying to do with Hieatt is that culture of like just trying stuff. And not being too worried about like the stuff that fails. And I think, you know, perfect kills creativity. It really does. And like, you know, and you just gotta like try stuff and you throw it against the wall and see if anything interesting happens. Because actually from your biggest failures will become your biggest success. You will do some learning from those mess-ups and experiments, and something absolutely failed. But there will be some learning there if you look for it. And that's the thing I've learned. You know, actually, fear stops you being interesting. Yeah. Your cleverness, honestly, really, like, you just got to come in and actually walk in dumb each day. Yeah. Ego really gets in the way of great creativity. Yeah. Your formula, the stuff that you did yesterday, like, forget it. Go and do some interesting stuff. You know that thing in the startup with the not knowing? That's where you're really interested. Actually, small budgets are brilliant. There's no financial director who gets worried about small budgets. It's only when the big things happen, they get really, really frightened. So embrace small budgets and just go, yeah, it's going to cost $5,000, we'll go and do this. You go, oh, great. Yeah, nobody gives a shit. I don't care if you fail or succeed. It's just like $5,000, right? I'm not saying $5,000 is not a lot of money. It is. But it's like relative to £1 million, it's a small budget. And do that thing of just walking in like you don't know the answer. You know, people go, oh, why do we do this? You go, oh, we did it like that yesterday. I'm going, well, maybe we were stupid yesterday. Not so clever. And this is, if you remember the picture that I started at the beginning, this is the old factory as it is now. Empty. But the beautiful thing about stories is they can go round and come round a full circle. And come June the 1st, is the Grand Masters are going to be sitting there making Hieatt jeans, because we've grown so much in the last couple of years that we have to move to a bigger factory, which is the old factory, which is going to be our new factory. That makes sense. And so, you know, 378 jobs to go. Actually, it'll be 375 June the 1st. We literally can't hire any more because we can't get any more people in the current factory because we've got loads of new machines, but we haven't got the room to go and put them in a place where they can sit down and work. And that's like a lovely problem to have. And it's a super nice problem. I'm humbled by it. I'm just going, wow, when luck comes through the door, give it a good, big old kiss and be humble with it. And you just go, oh, Dave, you're so talented. I'm going, honestly, I'm not. Luck came through the door, and I was super, super, super grateful for it. But I can't get that slide. But this is my last point, and it's a mythical thing that doesn't, I think somebody just made it up, but it's a good thing. And imagine like an unfair coin, where 55% of the time it lands on heads, and 45% of the time it lands on tails. And I actually think you hold the unfair coin when you're doing something that you know is going to make a difference, that you know should exist in this world. You know that empty feeling where you're doing something and you go to a meeting and you don't give a shit? You're not holding the unfair coin at that point. You're doing something that doesn't matter to you, and your body's trying to tell you you should be doing something that matters to you. It gives you the strength. Purpose does actually make you strong. And you hold the unfair coin when you're doing something that you know ultimately makes a difference, and that fulfills you.
These are roughly 28,835 jelly beans. I counted out 500 of them and used those to weigh the rest. In this pile, there's one jelly bean for each day that the average American will live. You might have more beans in your life, or maybe less, but on average, this is the time we have. Here's a single bean. It's your very first day. A special day, but kind of a rough day on everyone involved. Add 364 more and you have the first year of your life. Now, for a sense of scale, here are your first 15 years, 5,475 days. Which brings us to the threshold of adulthood, and at that moment, this is the time that we have left. And this is, on average, what we will do with all that time. We will be asleep for a total of 8,477 days. If we're lucky, some of that time we'll be sleeping next to someone we love. We will be in the process of eating, drinking, or preparing food for 1,635 days. We'll be at work, hopefully doing something satisfying, for the equivalent of 3,202 of those days. 1,099 days will be spent commuting or traveling from one place to another, maybe a little bit more if you live in LA. On average, we will watch television in one form or another for a total of 2,676 days. Household activities, like chores and tending to our pets and shopping, will take another 1,576 days. And we will care for the needs and well-being of others, our friends and family, for 564 days. We'll spend 671 days bathing, grooming, and doing all other bathroom-related activities, and another 720 days will go to community activities, like religious and civic duties, charities, and taking classes. After we remove all those beans, this is what remains. This is the time that we have left. Time for laughing, swimming, making art, going on hikes, text messages, reading, checking Facebook, playing softball, maybe even teaching yourself how to play the guitar. So what are you going to do with this time? How much of it do you think you've already used up? If you only had half of it, what would you do differently? What about half of that? How much time have you already spent worrying instead of doing something that you love? What if you just had one more day? What are you going to do today?
See Frank, he's a genius. So just to finish up, I think value your time. It is the ultimate gift. And so I always kind of try and think of trying to write a contract with myself. And because there's 86,400 seconds in each day, and you all go to the time bank. And there'll be a time where you go to the time bank and they'll go, oh, sorry, Mr. Hieatt, you've had all your time. And in that nanosecond, you'll go, did I spend my time well? And for you, the answer has to be yes. Your purpose, you know actually if you're following it or not. Because otherwise, if you're not, you're unsettled. And you're not fulfilled. Your duty as a human being is to come on this earth for a very short period of time. And it is to do something that matters most to you. And I love this quote, like lukewarm is no good. Thank you very much.
Hey, David, I'm Richard from U+I. Come on.
Hi.
Come up here, David. I mean, give him a big round of applause. Look at all your secrets. We were stuck on a slow-moving train from Didcot. Matthew and I, we were really late and stressed coming back across town because we really wanted to get here to be inspired. But we caught almost all of that, which is, I mean, that's just incredible. Something that meant, where's the cheese of accomplishment?
See Frank.
Yeah.
I love him. Yeah, I've been trying to get him to the Do lectures for ages, actually.
Just listening to that, the thing about the dinner party that struck me, which is really funny. You're a cool guy. He's got an amazing story, inspirational story. But imagine going to a dinner party where somebody sits next to you and asks you, "Well, what do you do for a living, Matthew?" And you have to say, "I'm a property developer." Because you can almost hear cock the other way, and nobody talks to you at all. And you go home in that taxi, and that was it. Well, you know, actually, we're really, really purpose. I'm not going to sell to you. We're purpose-driven. We think property development doesn't have to be a playground for rich, ugly males. Yeah. We can make a difference to people's lives. But we got a lot to learn from you, pal. We got a lot to learn. One thing that struck me. We're going to take some questions. I think Ellie, we've got a mic. I'm sure there's loads of questions, but I'm going to start with one. You have this lovely openness that sort of draws everyone in, I think, that wants to learn and use their life well. And you're happy with failure, and you're happy with no fear of failure, I guess, but there must have been some really big mistakes. You know, the ones that set you back a bit.
Oh, yeah, I mean, after I did Howie's, I wasn't allowed to do anything I knew anything about for a year. And then someone in the town came to me and said, do you want to start a pub? I'm going, not Not really, not ever.
Don't do that.
No. And I said, well, I invest in a pub on a Friday night between 6 and 9 p.m. And actually, my return investment isn't good. On a Saturday morning, it's pretty bad. But anyway, I did a pub. And it was like, and it's called the 25 Mile, and we're celebrating the ingredients from, I literally had a year where I couldn't do anything I knew about. And I lost 100 grand. It was like but it was a beautiful lesson of going, actually focus on the thing that is the thing, rather than trying to do everything.
The three circles. The
Yeah,
pub wasn't in the middle.
The pub wasn't in the middle, and
No.
guess what? It kind of failed. And so, and you think, oh, you can do, like, we all get like, oh, we're good at this thing. We're good at certain, good at property. And you go, it doesn't mean you're going to be, like, if you're great at tennis, it doesn't mean you'll be great at badminton, even though they're racket sports. There's like degrees. And so for me, it was like great lesson, just going like, stick to what you know.
Yeah, that's great. Elliot, has anyone got any questions? Let's pile them into David. I'm sure you have.
Hi there. Is Ed still going? Because I'm remembering Howard's. There used to be the guy with curly
Big Ed?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he's still going. Apparently he hasn't been to the gym for the last couple of weeks, so I'm a bit worried about him. But he's this big builder. And, but he goes swimming on Saturday mornings, does the weights. Yeah, so he's still going strong. Yeah.
Hi, I've got a mic. So obviously purpose is really important to your company. Unless you just find people who sort of get it when you want to bring them into the company, it can be quite hard to instill that in people that you hire. How do you do that? How do you get it into their heads and make them live it the way you do?
Well, I mean, there's a great book, I think it's called The Power of Moments by Dan and Chip Heath. And there was an experiment done with lifeguards. And he's 10 lifeguards, group 1, 10 lifeguards, group 2. And the first group, they were like 30-minute script saying, look, actually you're going to get these great skills, you're going to, this is going to help you in the future. And so, but the other group was the meaning group. And so they were like told like stories from other lifesavers who'd saved lives. And so those people were like willing to do 50% more than these people because they actually understood the purpose. And so it was a really good experiment where, and actually this is a good thing for a company, is you've got to cultivate that purpose. And you've got to keep telling your people, like, I mean, I say every time I have a meeting with them, I'm going, like, we're going to get 400 people their jobs back. And that's cultivating purpose. You have to, like, it is your job as the leader to go, to remind people of the purpose. And people just go, yeah, no, you're right, actually. And so that thing of, like, don't get bored by your own story. You've got to keep telling it, and you keep telling it, and, like, literally keep telling it. And, I can't tell you how many times I've said that. We're going to get 400 people their jobs back. And they're just going, Dave, we know. I'm going, yeah, but just in case you don't know, that's what we're going to do, right? That's the reason to do it. We're going to be a global denim brand, and we're going to get 400 people their jobs back. I literally, in the morning, I listen to the machines. I literally do it. My dogs are just going nuts, going, throw the ball. Dave, we've done this every morning. I literally have to use my imagination and I hear, like, all the translators when we have an open day, all the different languages. I'm going, wow. And they say Hiut Denim in all wrong ways in lots of languages. And I tell everyone in the factory that, and they're just going, Dave, man, like, coffee break over. We're done. We've got their story. The same as my dogs. They have to keep hearing the story. It is your job as a leader to show them where we want to go. But it has to be, you cultivate purpose. And people forget about it quickly. It's a great book, actually, Power of Moments. Fantastic book.
One of the greatest constraints to doing all the great things that you're talking about is owners and shareholders. How have you constructed yourself to allow yourself to
I've got one
do
here.
the great things you're doing?
I tell you what, I mean, like, I was very fortunate. Like, with the Howie's thing, I built up a track record, so there was some confidence in me. I learned, actually, I really loved having the shareholders in the Howie's thing because they were all, like, giving us suggestions. So I thought it was a really great part of the community. And we've got a great band of 10, 12 shareholders. We've constructed in a way that we kept all the vote-in shares, and we sold the non-vote-in. And actually, we send out. I'm really bad at sending out all the figures, and get reminded that I should do that every month. But I kind of look at shareholders as, yes, they've given us money, but also they want to help us. Do you mean they're going, have you thought about this? And I love all that. And and the only thing I've done, which I wanted to do and I haven't done, is I said we'd try and meet up once a year, and all of us. And I miss that, because actually if we were in London, we would do that. And so, like we had one shareholder, like he kept phoning us, going, I really want to be a shareholder. Like, I love denim. And he kept on. And in the end, we did a Skype conversation. He said, he was like a denim geek. And I'm going, wow, okay, yeah, whatever. But you obviously love denim, so you should be a shareholder. And then I was reading a book about Y Combinator. And I'm going, David Lee. Can't be the same David Lee. But his job at Y Combinator was to work on behalf of Ross Conway to hand out checks for $150,000, because they were so smart, they realized they weren't smart. So because no one in the building knew Dropbox was going to be that big, and no one in the building knew Airbnb was going to be that big. Y Combinator is like a startup school where they pay you $18,000 to go, and they take 5% of your business. Really harder to get into than Harvard, incredibly successful. And so we're lucky to be able to have those people who actually, and the deal was for 10 years, we wouldn't pay a dividend, and we've absolutely kept to that, and guaranteed. But look, I mean, I'm a great believer. It takes a time to build something of significance. And actually, if you're looking at the quarter and the next quarter, oak trees don't build on quarters. You don't build anything of real value over a quarter. You build it over a decade. And I was just going, and we were lucky enough to attract shareholders with long-term thinking. So, and you've got to be really choosy with the money that you get on board, and it has to be the slowest money that is available to you at that time.
It resonates, Matthew. We're a public company. I don't know if any of our investors are here. I shouldn't say this. I'm going to say it anyway. But every year we obviously have to tell the city how well we've done for that year, and you're thinking, actually, what we really like is making great places that can make great profits. But why do we have to come back every year and tell you 12% twice a year, around and around in circles? You think, just trust us, believe in us, please.
And I think that's what ultimately, if you have great shareholders, they give you this thing, and that's belief. And actually, when there's tough days, they still believe in you. Actually, people invest in people. Do you mean and you have to go, the most important thing you have in this world is your reputation.
How did you meet your wife? You talk about it a lot.
It's a long story, but my next door neighbor was her Uncle John, who was my football manager. So I've got a photo of us when I'm 3 and she's 1.5, and so yeah. But I actually started living with her in New York. I hadn't lived with her at all at that point. So.
Oh, when she was 4?
Oh no, not 4. No, when she was 18.
Lovely. Have we got another question? Yeah, David Barry, down the front here.
The news is full of fake purpose and fake news.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah.
And we see lots of fake saintly people who turn out to be not so saintly.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. Does that piss you off, or does it make you just focus on a certain, or just ignore it, or actually is the world a little bit more complex than just waking up every day and feeling the purpose and feeling it?
Well, I think.
What should we do about it?
Well, that's a good question. I have no idea, but it is true. I think all you can do is hold yourself to account. That's all you do. You write the contract with yourself, because actually there is no lawyer that can break that contract other than you. And so for me, I'm going how can I be better than I was yesterday? As a company, and we all I'm doing this 90-day no drink thing. I'm just going, I just like that. But I like it because I've got 90 days of really busyness, and I want to be focused. I want to know to the team that I'm giving my very best. And that's all you can do. And literally, that's all you can do. Like, if I've done my best tonight, and whether people go, that was rubbish, that was brilliant. Like, all I can do, the only thing I can do is go, did I do my best? And I think that's all you can do. And you can't, like, people will disappoint you. But the only thing for you is don't disappoint yourself. And the contract with yourself is the ultimate contract, where you got self-esteem, you go, I made the contract, I'm in control. And if you let yourself down, you feel it. Absolutely feel it. Great question, though. Yeah. I don't know if I have no answer.
David, so you've got 400 people in the business.
No, I haven't. I've got 25.
So what's more interesting to you, the 26th or not being an oil tanker when you've got 400?
That's a great question. Agility is an incredible thing. And obviously, as you get bigger, you can lose that. And so I don't know if that's the answer. But actually, right now, for me, is getting that 26th person. And make a great product, tell a great story. And actually, we live in this moment in time where you suddenly go, wow. And the question I ask myself is, we need to have more crazy ideas, because Mr. Davis and Mr. Strauss, they came together literally because actually Mr. Davis had an idea for a rivet. And, they literally came together. They had the cloth, he had the rivet, bam. Then they got a patent. And I'm going, I think if we have some really great ideas, we'll get 400 people their jobs back. So my intention is really number 26. And when you land in planes, imagine, there's an ethos, isn't there? You can only give your attention to the next plane. You have to get the next plane down. And yes, you have to go and think, oh, can I be agile and be 400? I think probably the answer will be, I think there'll be a company of 25. There'll be a company of 25. And, I think there'll be many companies within that 400. I could be wrong. I don't know. Great question, that.
I think this is excellent, but I was just wondering what happens when you get bored of your own story.
That's a great question too. I don't know. Do you know people get bored of their own story and they keep changing it? And I'm not bored of it, and I'm going, there will be a significant day for me if I achieve what I set out to do, is get those 400 people their jobs back. And so I'm not going to get bored until that point. And then hopefully somebody else is going, I'm not bored with this, let's go and get 800 jobs back. But I think I think people get bored of their story far too quickly. And they go and invent another story. You go, I've only got one story. That's it. Nike has one story. It's about personal development. And they've been saying just do it in different executions for, that's why they beat Adidas, right? They were able to communicate emotion because sport is emotional. And so, you should never, ever get bored with your own story, I think. Yeah.
Hi, thank you very much. I come from a rural community where lots of jobs have been lost.
Okay.
And I'm interested in how you think in the future cities and rural communities can work together.
Well, again, another great question. I mean, look, down in West Wales, we export to this other country, and it's called London. So we're in this rural community, literally closer to Ireland than even to Cardiff. But we need the affluence of the city in order to go and, we sell £230 jean. I mean, it's like, the Porsche of denim. It's like, so we need both. And I think the interesting thing now, for me, the internet has allowed rural communities to suddenly maybe go back and rediscover the skill sets that they had. And they don't have to be lost. And, Claudio, who's cut jeans in the factory, he said to me, and it nearly broke my heart. He said, you know, and he's been cut, he left school and he started in this factory at 15, and he's 65. And he's there going, do you know what my biggest fear in my life was? I wouldn't have anybody to teach my skills to. And so they would just die with me. And then he said to me, he said, so I didn't realize, like I was there, I was upset with myself because I'm going, what was my purpose of actually learning this stuff? And so like actually what we're trying to do is like making sure that that skill set gets handed down to the next generation. So suddenly Claudia doesn't want to retire. But the answer to your question is actually, you know, cities need, you know, like, you know, little towns like us and little towns like need the city. And that's always going to be the way, right? I would think.
Dave.
Oh.
Sorry, I'm hiding in the shadows here. Thanks so much. That was so inspiring. I just want to take you slightly sideways with this.
Yeah.
The Do lectures.
Oh, yeah.
How did they come about? What inspired them, and how do they fit into your circles?
Yeah, that's a good question. I tell you what, they started, my mate sent me a text, and they said, don't just stand there, do something, Dick Dastardly. And at the dinner table that night, me and Claire's going, and we were running Howie's at the time, and we're going, oh, look, it's great that we make clothes, and it's great that they're environmental, and we're trying. But the biggest change of all is actually, you know, the people who've done it inspire people who think they can't do it, but can, but just need the inspiration to do it. And that's how we started the Do Lectures. And it's a beautiful thing. It's like this amazing flower that is just beautiful. And I've done it for like 10 years. I've cleaned the bins. I've done the Hoover. I light the fire on a Tuesday. I haven't paid myself in 10 years. And you know, and the interesting thing is a £1.2 billion events company came to us and said, we love the Do Lectures. And I'm going, that's funny, so do I. And they said, but, well, no, we really love it. I'm going, that's funny, so do I. And they said, we want to buy it. And I'm going, I tell you, if I sold it, Tessa and Stella, my daughters, wouldn't speak to me ever again. And some things have to exist just because they're beautiful. And like, you know, 300 talks, I ask myself all the time, going, why on earth? I've got enough in my plate. Trying to get 400 people jobs back. Most people will be happy with that. And I do this thing. I don't pay myself. You know, I do all these workshops to keep it going. But I love it. And I think your thing is, do you know that great feeling when you've helped somebody? That's a beautiful feeling, right? And so I get these letters going, actually, you changed my life. You did this. And I'm going, bloody hell, I've never met you. I'm never going to meet you. But that's a nice letter. I'm happy to have those letters all the time. But helping others is what human beings are hardwired to do. And so, and you just, some things just don't make sense business-wise. It's hard. I mean, we do free talks. It's really expensive to come, but those 100 patrons allow the world to see those talks for free. And I look at the app every day, and there's going, somebody from China watching, somebody from Japan. I'm going, and I'm there going, that's so cool. It's in Cardigan. Like, it's like loads of people from all around the world walking through our cowshed. So I think that gift of helping others, like, that's why you do things and you can't explain them. You go, why did you do that? So I just felt like, you're human. You're hardwired to help people. I know that doesn't always feel like that when you read the media, but actually, do you know what? There's a lot of good people out there. There's very few bad ones.
Doesn't feel like that sometimes, does it?
No, it doesn't.
So, yeah, I think we have one more question, and then we'll maybe have a glass of wine or beer or whatever you want, and some cheese of accomplishment.
You like that?
Yeah, I do. There's one more question there.
Hi. Hello. Hiya. I think I heard you mention that you regarded the sale of Harrods to Timberland as a mistake, and I just wondered how much of a driver that was for what you're doing now.
If you love something, you shouldn't sell it. The job was half done. Like, you know, as a kid, right, I had the rule from my parents was I couldn't have any posters on the windows or the door handles so I could see out of my bedroom. And I had posters of Adidas and Nike and Levi's and Wrangler. and a bit of Puma, Johan Cruyff, like him. And so, like, my quest with Hieatt was go and build the best brand in the world. It makes you think and buy. And I thought that was extraordinary. And do I regret it? No, I learned a ton from it. Yes, have I taken that learning, and was some of that learning really painful? Actually, for 2 years, I was really down in the dumps. And I went running, and I was getting fit, but I wasn't getting happy. And actually, my sister was a nurse. She said, actually, do you know what? You're grieving. And I'm going, no. Yeah. When's it going to go away? It started going away when I started doing Hieatt. And now I look at all the grandmasters, and I'm just going, God, I'm glad I had that learning. It was very difficult. But now I'm just going, actually, I'm going to complete the mission. And I think that sometimes, you know, the worst moments in your life actually are there for a real great reason, because actually they're going to help you have the best moments of your life.
Would you keep hold of it, though?
Eh?
You're going to keep hold of it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. No, look, I mean, the thing is like, the town project is real, right? And you know, for 6 weeks the town booms, and for the rest of the time it struggles because its biggest employer went away. And so, God, if I could get that engine back and the town blooms, I'm going, like, that's more than money, right? Some things are worth more than money. And it actually runs a business, right? And actually, you know, it makes money, and you go, okay, we can have a nice life, and we can live where we want, work with people we love, and make jeans for the most creative people on the planet. You go, home run.
Good. I was hoping you'd say that.
Yeah.
Look, I think we've taken so much of David's time. It's been an absolute inspiration.
Brilliant.
Let's
Thank
give
you.
him a round of applause. We tried to get here in the snow. There have been 2 occasions, come all the way from Cardigan, but thanks to you all for coming. It's really good to have you here in our home. Please share a glass of wine or a beer with us over there. And,
thank you.
And we'll talk some more. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much.